welcome back to the Root Cause Podcast. Today we've got a special friend over from Arkansas, the natural state. How'd y'all come up with that? I didn't see much natural over there in the Ozarks.
I don't have a clue. I guess they thought it was the land of opportunity, so that wasn't working. So I guess
You know how we got the volunteers, don't you?
I don't how.
Sam Houston promised Davy Crockett he'd get rich. He'd go down there in Houston, fight the Mexicans, and he got killed. So,
Gotcha.
you know, you got to watch. There wouldn't be a Texas if there wasn't for Tennessee, is what I tell people. So kind of just an extended area. So
Well, I appreciate the history lesson.
okay, yeah. So anyway, we got Amanda back, and we're here with Cliff Carter. So Amanda, just kind of introduce Cliff, because Cliff and that's y'all's longer term relationship.
Yeah, so Cliff and I have known each other for probably 16, 17 years now. First met when I had a short little stint with Regions, and came over and worked with them on their ag finance side, and then through Case IH, and he did have a Case IH picker for a hot minute.
Yeah.
So I really want Cliff. Cliff has been a mentor and a friend for that amount of time. He's well-rounded, but he's very grounded in the Lord, but in our industry. And so I really just want you to give kind of your history of your family, where y'all started, give some testimony, and I'm just going to let you kind of elaborate on that if you don't mind.
Okay, appreciate that. Thanks. By the way, thanks for having me too. I'm humbled and honored that y'all
Well, the
asked me to
privilege is
come.
ours.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Feelings mutual, I promise. Well, I was born and raised on the farm. I mean, I'm I guess fourth generation farmer, and my son and my nephew would be fifth generation. But my dad, they started kind of, where Caraway, you've ever heard of Caraway, Black
Yes.
Oak, that Mississippi County, that area over in there. They started over in there, and we migrated up toward Marmaduke and Greene and Clay County area. And my grandpa had quit farming, but my uncle Wes had kept farming. My dad worked for him for an opportunity to farm until 1976 was my dad's first crop on his own, and he was 30. Don't get me missing, but he was in his early 30s before he had the opportunity to farm on his own. He loved it that much, and that's really all we've ever known. I had a twin brother and two sisters. My brother and I were kind of the uh-ohs because I had two sisters that are 9 and 10 years older than us. But my brother and I, we were twins, and I don't know if any of y'all are twins or know it, but you can't explain it until you are one. And I mean, we thought like each other and fought like cats and dogs, but nobody else better.
Which one was born first?
I was 10 minutes.
Okay.
Hey, this was before ultrasounds and all that mess. So,
Oh, yeah.
So mom's having me,
Babies.
and then the doctor's like, "Hey, hold on, there's another one coming." Dad, I don't know if Dad turned as white as your shirt and probably passed out. I don't have a clue but back then it was a totally different thing. But me and my brother, that's all we knew is farming. We'd spend all of our time together. When you got out of school, got off the bus, and first thing you did was change out of your school clothes. Mm-hmm. Mom had a snack, but we had to get out of our school clothes and go to work. And we grew up like that. And y'all, looking back, man, to look back, you think about the good old days. We didn't have a pot to pee in or a place to dump it out. I mean, we rented every acre. We farmed, lived in a house that was provided by the farm. It was a sharecropper's house. That's what we did. And we were so happy. I mean, so happy. I remember my mom and dad telling me stories. They were always sharecroppers. And I don't know if y'all ever heard much about, they would go to Arizona to pick cotton. They would go to Washington. My sister was born in Washington to pick apples, and Michigan to pick cherries. That's all they knew. That's all my family did was something to farm. They migrated around. And I remember my dad telling me a story. He was on a farm in Arizona, and he was, it was basically, they had them trapped. This ranch had its own store, its own pharmacy, everything. So everything that they made, they had to spend within that ranch. So, they had it, this place had it going on.
Yeah.
And I remember my dad telling me, he said, "Son, I loaded your mom and your two sisters up and your grandmother And one of his, 10 or 12 of them would go in a car back then, all the way to California and Arizona, and loaded them all up in the middle of the night and escaped from that.
Yeah.
And my life, I try to keep things in perspective.
Right.
And when I hear those stories and think about how hard we have it now, we really don't. We're not faced with hard times.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, we don't have it
right.
hard.
But
Go back to one point in the story.
All right.
So you said your dad fell in love with the farm. And at that point, he had escaped the sharecropping point of that.
right.
But he loved it. And golly, when he loved it, was B. John Deere's probably? Or
We started, my uncle was all John Deere.
Okay.
And I remember getting the 40/20 is what I learned how to plow on. You had that row guide down there. And you stared at it,
going in first gear.
Absolutely. But I remember as a kid, I don't know if y'all got to do this, but sitting on the fender of a 40/20.
Yeah.
My dad's favorite thing was to plant. He loved to plant. And I might get emotional sometimes because me and my dad got to spend every single day together. And but I remember sitting on that fender. And if you ever had to sit there with your feet dangling and
That'd be like
the cleats hitting your feet, you're letting your feet hit the cleats on the tire as it's rolling around. I remember that. And
So in this day and age, that would be like an OSHA / child abuse
he'd get arrested for that.
And it was very, I told my parents a few times, I said, I've always really thought y'all were stand-up people, but y'all let me do some pretty crazy, dumb stuff.
Absolutely.
So it was just a natural thing.
Oh, absolutely. And I remember him asking me, he said, son, you think you'll make a planter man one day? But little did I know till after I got older that I realized he was talking about way more than planting cotton. I mean, but back to that funny thing. I remember now I've got a grandson, okay, and we got to strap. They're in a car seat till they're 18 or 20. That's just
turned around backwards.
Yeah, exactly. But I remember I told them my kids the other day. I said, before trucks, Bob trucks and stuff had power steering. He had a steering wheel this big, And I remember my grandpa putting my brother and I on the steering wheel of that old Bob truck where we were going to the elevator, and we loved to ride. That's how we would get to the elevator where we would steer. But times have changed. But
I had a 5-gallon bucket, and it was usually an old hydraulic bucket that
Absolutely.
I'd sit on, and then it would be a worn-out cushion that Mimi had from the kitchen table that he put on top of it, and I'd had a tarp strap that
I know, I get it.
to keep it from falling over and secured in there.
You know what? We lived through it too.
I
didn't
know.
we? And we didn't know any different.
No.
I'm not saying all these new safety regulations are bad, but I'm saying that we lived through it, and we did that with faith.
Yep.
You know what I mean? They knew each generation. Guys, there's one thing that we're all have in common. No matter what we look like, no matter what we choose to believe or anything, we're all going to face adversity at some point in our lives, and it's how we respond to that and react to that determines the outcome of how that's going to be at the end. We can be bitter. We have two options: we can be bitter or we can be better. We have to choose better. And fortunately for me and my brother and my sisters, my mom and dad chose better.
Yeah.
So when you came back to so when did y'all start when you were on your own out of sharecropping back to when you were starting there, and tell me from there.
For me personally, my own. Well, I thought I fell in love. Okay, so when I fell in love, my future wife lived in St. Louis, Missouri, and I moved there the day after I graduated high school, and I had a little Dodge Ram 50 truck. Everything I owned was in the bed of it, and it didn't weight it down. So Never been to a city. My biggest place we had been was Branson, Missouri. That was it. So I loaded up my truck and moved to St. Louis, Missouri. And if there's a place on earth that God doesn't exist, I'm sorry, St. Louis, but it was bad for me. But so I stayed there around 4 years. Worked for Mac Tools. I don't know if y'all have ever heard of Mac Tools. We built pneumatic impacts and worked for them. Met some great people, met some lifelong friends, relationships that I still cherish to this day.
Right.
But it wasn't the farm. And my wife and I decided we thought we were gonna.
You got a CD St. Louis girl to move to Podunk, Arkansas.
Well, what happened is their family was originally from Arkansas.
That helped you. That helped you. Okay.
So she,
You're a real salesperson.
I know. What do you want to buy? I need to subsidize this farming deal right
If
now.
I buy one more good deal, I'm going to be bankrupt.
I understand. But her father worked at General Motors. And if y'all remember, that was through the 80s, through all the big layoffs and stuff. So, funny story. Her dad decided he was laid off at General Motors. Guess what year he wanted to start farming? 1980. So they moved back to Arkansas in 1980, and he farmed for 1 year and was out. I mean, that's all that took. But they started going to school at Marmaduke, where we were at, and I met her. And then when she got old enough, she wanted to come. Those schools were huge, It'd be like going to school in Nashville or somewhere, And they just wanted to wanted to go back to school. So she came back for her senior year, and to Marmaduke, and we met. And our first date, y'all. This is how much the Lord has played a role in my life. It's not. He's who I am. I mean, seriously, it's my identity as Jesus Christ. I don't care if y'all put my name on here. It doesn't matter. The only name that matters is Jesus Christ in my life. Well, our first date was to church. I asked her if she wanted to.
That was cheap.
It was, and it's an old country church out in the middle of on the San Francisco River. I mean, we had a homecoming service there the other night, and we had to run the skunks out from underneath it. I mean, that's where it was at. But so to say that my beginnings were humble, they were, but I've learned through this life that you have to stay humble.
Yes.
I mean, you do, and I learned through experience and through the hard way that it's a lot easier to humble yourself than to wait for God to humble you, and that's basically my farming story. I mean, we started humble, and we didn't have nothing, and right now, the way things look, we don't have nothing either. But we didn't start with nothing.
Yeah, we sure come in with nothing, and we got nothing
absolutely,
again.
absolutely.
So, but it was you and your daddy and your brother, right? That were farming. Sisters weren't on the farm.
Yes, my sister, next to the oldest sister, she worked a lot. She knew how to drive a tractor and stuff. My oldest sister, bless her heart, had to help raise us.
Yep.
So she worked, and she played mama while my mom worked too, and so she didn't get to enjoy a lot of things that teenage girls got to enjoy. I mean, because she was busy helping my mother and father raise two twins, and my other sister was working on the farm, and my brother hated it. I can remember my mom. We had a 3-wheeler. But mom and dad couldn't afford two of everything, so we shared everything. Our first vehicle,
Underwear.
not that. Now they dressed us alike until we were old enough to dress ourselves.
Okay.
But we shared everything, and I remember my mom. We were chopping cotton.
Yeah, well, that'll get you some.
It will. Yeah, absolutely. So she would, we'd ride that 3-wheeler to the field, and for me, my whole life, I've always been a people pleaser. I don't know why, but I want to make people happy. I want to do what I'm supposed to do, when I'm supposed to do it, and how I'm supposed to do it. And if I don't, then I'm disappointed. And don't want to disappoint anyone, But my brother, he didn't care. I mean, he didn't give a rip. He hated it, and he didn't care if the whole world knew it. And he would get on that 3-wheeler, and mom would chase him with the hoe. Now, she'd turn around. She didn't want to hit him with the chopping part, but she'd turn around and try to hit him with the handle, and he would just go in circles while she was chasing. If we had phones and videos back then like we have now, I wouldn't be worried about farming, because I promise you we would be TikTok superstars and YouTube superstars right now if I just record. Wouldn't even have had to add any captions to it. Just put it on the air and just let it play. I mean, it would be comical.
Yeah.
But we had my sisters were integral in our lives. I remember that specifically. But my brother, like I said, we were always close, and he didn't want to farm, and he was working at building trailers for a place called Peerless Trailer, and some bar stock fell on his foot, and he had to get sent to the ER, and he became addicted to painkillers.
Okay.
And And we've been comical and funny, but that's
Serious.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it changed. It changed my life because in 2006 I had my house blown away by a tornado, and I thought that was the worst thing that could ever happen to you. Until you sit there and stand at a casket with people walking by, shaking your hand and hugging your neck and telling you, "I'm sorry for your loss," or "I'm praying for you," or whatever it is. Your perspective changes, and he fought that battle. It started out with painkillers, and it went to other things. And this was a young man that never would. When we were young, I don't know if alcohol ever hit his lips. He was scared of all of that. He just wouldn't do it, And I've told people, they've asked, how do you help someone who's in addiction? And I told them, I don't know, because everything that I tried was wrong. Everything that I possibly tried, I tried to get him into drug rehabs, tried to do this, tried to do that. And when he passed away, I thought he hated me. I really did. I thought because I would not give him $100 to go see a doctor so he could get a prescription.
Yeah.
And he, at his funeral, my cousin read a note that he had written. He told me he was going to pass away. He said, "I want to live long enough to see my granddaughter." And I said, "Nah, you're full of crap, whatever, you're going to be all right." And when he passed away, he was thanking everybody in this letter. I mean, he'd wrote this letter 5 or 6 months before he passed away. And when he got to me, he said, "Tell my brother that he's my hero." And I thought that he hated me when he passed away. But the only time that I ever helped him, and for anyone that's listening, that has someone that's a family member or a friend who's going through addiction, the only time that if you're asking the question how to help, the only time that I ever helped my brother was when I said no. That was it.
Well, thanks for that. That's from the heart.
I'm
for
sorry.
Sure. No,
That's why we ask people. Listen, everybody battles some things, and we
Absolutely.
all have somebody that's battling that in our families or in our community. Every one of us does.
yeah. So there's a documentary on that Billy Bob Thornton's in called Goliath.
Yeah.
And it's really something to watch.
It is.
So it's on Amazon Prime.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's really eye opening. Like you said, he was probably addicted to painkillers before he ever took one. That he got injured and they gave him to him. So that's tough deal. So so you come back to the farm. What year?
1993 was
Okay,
my
so
first
that
crop.
that was a bad crop.
I borrowed $12,000, and I think I made $10,000 to pay it back. I started $2,000 in a hole. I bought a 616 cotton picker, red cotton picker, off my dad for $1. That was my collateral that I put up
Okay,
for farming.
1993
1993, I had 80 acres of cotton, dry land cotton
in Arkansas.
in Arkansas.
Yeah.
Made about 450 pound per acre is about what it made.
You probably got more than cotton's bringing today per pound.
I think it was. I think we weren't in loan price then. I do think it was 60 something cents. Then
Yeah. So just kind of building on that. Where's the farm at today? Your crop mix and
we have kind of left cotton. We now we grow around 1,200 acres of rice. Had a lot of corn last year. Try to rotate that in with soybeans and keep, since we moved cotton out, so your rice goes on rice ground. I mean, you know.
are you row rice or?
It depends. Each situation, it has its place, but on some it doesn't. We have some zero grade ground that that's strictly rice ground. But we try to mix that. We took out what good ground it was in cotton and replaced it with corn and soybeans. So we rotate those in and out. A lot.
Okay, yeah. So tell me about your farming practices from then to now.
Well, we started with cotton. We're in an area where there's a lot of erosion and wind blowing and sand blowing and stuff. So we started with the cover crops. So we do a lot of minimum till, some no till, and a lot of minimum till. But the rice is a lot of it's not strictly no till, but it is minimum till. We try to, especially the zero grades. If we can get, I know y'all probably heard about the burning stuff over there, but that's more than just us trying to get the stub oil down as cheap as possible. It's a whole lot better for us if you can burn that down and fill your ruts in and run a scoop on it or something and plant that right back, in rice. We try to keep the rice tillage as minimal as possible.
Yeah. So right now the rice economics are tougher than
Rice is out. I mean, if something doesn't change, I mean, you're talking about the cotton.
Yeah.
We're selling rice at I sold rice cheaper. I mean, more in the early 90s than we're getting out of it now. I mean, rice is it's bad. And there's a lot of factors that have caused that. The world is just full of rice. I don't know if you remember, Amanda was in the cotton industry for the longest when China started buying all this cotton up and we saw the spike in cotton prices. Well, then they had all they needed. And then all of a sudden, boom, we got too much cotton in the world. India has been doing that. I mean, India was banned from selling rice, exporting rice to, the world, but they didn't. The problem is they didn't stop growing rice.
right.
So they were subsidizing their farmers, keeping them going, and where they were still producing rice. And all of a sudden, those sanctions that's all lifted, and boom, they're selling rice.
Still a big percentage of the rice the cotton hand picked.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, real big percentage. So, well, you talked about the next generation. Your boys are how old?
One's 30 and one's 33. Yeah.
Okay, so they're on the farm.
Yeah, both of them.
Yeah, and they didn't go through the hard knocks you did.
They are this year. They did last year, and this year is going to be tough. Last year was tough. I mean, it was.
Yeah, so talking about that, you went to the famous Arkansas meeting that was going to happen last fall.
Mm-hmm.
And tell us a little bit about that experience and all the politicians that showed up to help.
What politicians?
All of them. I know Tom Cotton came.
No, he didn't show his face.
Or what's her name? The governor.
Well, they sent representatives of their offices there.
Yeah.
It was a letdown.
But it was a huge meeting and turned out to be 300 or 400 people, farmers,
Yeah.
in the middle of harvest,
Yeah.
which is hard to get. It's hard to get farmers to do anything on a rainy day, but let alone a pretty day. So,
Absolutely.
yeah. So the gist of that meeting is we had it, but we still aren't getting heard, are we?
Absolutely. We're trying to raise awareness, the squeaky wheel gets the grease, it was like it was falling on deaf ears. And it kind of seems like it is still now. I mean, we live in such a short memory world right now. You can bring something up and then boom, it's forgotten in a few days, and it seems like it's been put on the back burner now, but they don't understand. And here's the deal. I'm not a selfish person. I want this farm I pray every morning. God, you didn't say that you would make my way, but you said you would make a way. So help me, show me the way that this is going to, if this is what you have for us to do. I had a tractor to burn the first day I put it in the field last Friday. My best tractor, worst case scenario, I mean, ain't going to come out insurance wise like I should. It was the worst case scenario. So I'm like, God, are you closing a door? Are you telling me to stop trying to kick in closed doors? So I'm praying for that every day, for God to show me what it is that we need to be doing. But as far as, my boys, I don't know what that future holds. I don't know. I mean, it's scary. How do we plan for this? How do we? I don't know about what, and everyone I talk to, this ministry we do, where we've been all over Arkansas and Texas and Louisiana and Georgia. It's the same story with just different faces. That geographically, it doesn't matter where you're at, but it's the same story, man. We're struggling. And guys who never, ever live in that mentality, don't let them see you sweat, never talk about finances. They're talking about finances down,
So this brings something that's close to me. When you came back to the farm in 93, your dad's advice was probably have a clean crop, keep the weeds out of it, work hard, take care of your equipment, and it'll take care of itself. That was probably somewhat of the advice he gave.
I'll never forget. That's funny you brought that up. There was my dad, I had a neighbor that, an older guy that mentored, that we looked at. You had those guys in your life that you looked up to, your grandfather, that kind of guy that you looked up to. And his name was Kenneth Kirkendall. And I'll never forget him telling me, he said, I'm not worried about what I'm going to get out of it. I want a clean crop and I want a good crop. And I never forget that. I thought, man, that's great advice, but we got to worry about what we're going to get out of it. You know what I mean? Because this hard work, unfortunately, doesn't pay off now. It doesn't make you successful. Like it used to. It's for yourself. It does for your self-contentment. You know, I worked hard. I gave it my all, but, we have to, if we want to be successful, are we really giving it our all if we're not concentrating on that other part of it that we don't like to concentrate on, you know? And we farm around 5,000 acres. So we're in that sandwich is what I call it, you know? I mean, we're not big enough to hire a secretary to take care of all of that or hire people that manage our markets, manage this and that, but we're too big to try to take care of it all ourselves. You know, so you're in that sandwich deal where you really have to focus and need some assistance and help on that, you know.
Yeah, so over here, we call it the mustard and the mayonnaise.
Yeah.
The white and the yellow line. And we get off in the side ditches along, you know, so it's, but here you said today, your boys are 30, my child's 10 and 7.
Right.
I've been wondering what would be the encouragement speech. There's really not one to have with the next generation now. So kind of worries me about, you know, where we are headed. And I keep reading your scripture on your shirt, and the promise is greater than the storm. Boy, it's a big old storm.
It is. It does. But that scripture, Galatians 6:9 says, do not grow weary and don't give up. That's basically what that says. In due time, you'll receive a reward if you don't give up.
Yeah, one of the greatest core values, I think, is never give up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So,
Speaking of, though, I was going to ask, when did Turnrow Ministries start?
It's our 4th year.
4th year. I can't remember if it's 4th or 5th.
It's our 4th year, and that was brought to my attention yesterday. I wouldn't have known. I mean, we just do it, you know. But it was our.
So tell me though how it got started.
Well, do y'all have a lot of H2A guys and gals here?
Yes.
You do. Okay. All right. We when we started that, there was a burden on my heart. Like, they become our friends and family. You work with them every single day. You know, and I would visit with them in line over at Caruthersville at the river, you know, sitting in line. There was a lot of drivers that were H2A guys. And try to invite them to church. I went to, you know, kind of talking to them and asking them about their background, how they serve over there, what kind of churches they go to, what kind of food they eat, whatever, you know, just trying to understand their culture. And you just we can't get them to come to church, but they kind of have a kind of worship like we do. It's a little bit more, maybe not as charismatic, but it's more of a Baptist, Methodist, you know, whatever type of worship that they do. And, but they just wouldn't come to church. And when they come here, they're, you know, as well as I do, they come here to work. That's what they want to do every hour that they possibly can. So, we decided, hey, if we can't get them to come to church, we're going to take church to them. So there were some young men that I was helping try to disciple, and God provided that. He'd put those men in my path. A good friend of mine pastors Emmanuel Cowboy Church, and he showed up one night at a Turnrow service. We were struggling for someone to play a guitar and sing, and this dude in a cowboy hat shows up in the back row, and he said, I just want to see what this is all about. He said, I want to run with the runners, is what he told me. I'll never forget that. And he preaches for us and does music for us, but we just go to different shops, whoever will have us. We don't charge, we don't pass an offering plate. We don't ask for money. We bring them a hat like you guys got, a Bible like you guys got, and we're there for them. I mean, and we're very flexible because we understand that, you know, what time we farm too, you know, so we understand what time of the year that is. So we may start the service at 7:00 on a Sunday night, but all of our services, unless we go way out, are on Sunday nights. And we'll show up, and they show up in their shorts and hats and grease and hydraulic oil and diesel, and it doesn't matter. But and we're there for one thing only, and that's to share Jesus Christ with them. Our mission is to make sure when they get on that plane to go back home in December, November, whenever that is, to make sure that they've got a copy of the Word of God and they know that Jesus loves them. That's all Turnrow Ministry is. Somebody asked me, what is Turnrow Ministry? It's just an act of obedience. That's all it is.
And to the listeners, Cliff has not gotten anyone to open their shop up in West Tennessee. So
Absolutely. What's up with you guys? Come on.
We need to do that to welcome them here.
Yeah. But
yeah, we can open up some shops. You never had one over here?
No,
Nope.
we've never had one.
Just an hour and a half.
I know. And I had a place on Real Foot Lake and no guys over there. Yeah.
Yeah, so these over here, we're not upset with the natural state. It's the Texans. We got problem. We got so Davy Crockett's from here.
Yeah, there's some good people down there. We went to a little town called Mertens, Texas, and did ministry down there, and it was an amazing trip. We got to go. I had some friends in the industry, and you know how most of your relationships, and mine and Amanda's is the same way. I mean, we really became close after you got hurt.
Yeah.
I mean, and
back.
most of the relationships that are meaningful to us are birthed out of some kind of adversity. And I had some friends I had a young man I coached baseball with, and he passed away. And he was going to be an ag pilot in an accident. And one of my friends that I met on Facebook, you may know. Do you know the Averages Ron and Average that lives in Pinehurst, Georgia? His son had lost his life in an ag pilot. So I did just a testimonial on Facebook. That's my venting. That's how I release I believe that when God brings us through something, broken heals broken is what I believe. And we're supposed to share that. And every time we share that, I believe we heal a little. And so I shared this story, and he reached out to me, he and his wife, and told me that they knew this young man. But long story short, we were going to go out there and do Turnrow Ministry. Well, y'all know what happened over there a couple of years ago. That hurricane came up through Georgia and Tennessee, and all the devastation that it did. But we went. It was going to be a Turnrow Ministry service. Well, God changed that. It turned into a mission trip. So we loaded up, I don't know how many enclosed trailers, kind of like you did when you went to Texas that time. We loaded up all kinds of things that you couldn't imagine, and things that you don't think of that people need. Like I remember this one specific. I don't know why, but it was I got a hold of them and asked them what specifics they need, and they were looking for adult diapers for a nursing home. So you just don't think of stuff like that. But that was very instrumental and kind of grew our ministry into the next level. Like, hey, this is real. We're just not a bunch of guys going to a shop and putting up a sound system and playing some gospel songs and preaching and going home. God's in this story. You know what I mean? So it gave our ministry more, like I said, it grew it to the next level, gave us more of a sense of purpose and direction as to what we're doing and where we're heading with this,
Okay, so how many of these you done?
Oh, gosh, we do. Sometimes we'll do like one every weekend. Sometimes we skip one, but I would...
A couple hundred, huh?
At least, at least.
Okay, well, that's...
At least.
Kudos to you for that. That's a big effort.
That's just Jesus. No kudos to me, brother. That's just Jesus. He gets all the glory, I promise.
Well, I also want to bring up, though, Make-A-Wish, too, because Cliff is how I got involved with Make-A-Wish. And gosh, how many years have you been a volunteer now?
14 years.
Oh,
so tell me what Make-A-Wish does.
Make-A-Wish grants wishes for children with life-threatening illnesses.
Okay.
So let's say, cancer, leukemia, something with the heart, CF, cystic fibrosis, any kind of condition that the doctors say, hey, this is life-threatening for this child. They give them hope. Yep. They give them a sense of normality when all they know has been doctors. And, I remember when COVID hit and we were all fussing about the mask and stuff, I thought these kids, they've lived life in a mask, and it's not going to bother them because that's how they've had to live life. But that's what they do. They grant wishes. This child can, Amanda granted one for a young man in Covington. I got his bracelet on. Houston. Yep. And you go and you visit with them and you ask them what, you get their wants and their likes and what they're interested in. And then, you ask them, if you could be anything you wanted to be, what would it be? If you could go anywhere you wanted to go, where would you go? If you could have anything you wanted to have, what would you want? Or if you could meet anyone you wanted to meet, who would you want to meet? And you ask them those questions, and you give that child an opportunity to have their one true wish. And it's not just for that child. Because as you know, and when
the giver gets
the family.
The family.
The
Yeah.
family.
If you've ever went through anything kind of illness with the whole family isn't, they're fighting with them. So it's for the siblings, the mother and father. I mean, it's.
And I think for me, when we've filled a lot of the wishes, it surprises you what they ask for. It's not most of the time. It's not something off the wall or.
Yeah.
No.
Most of the time, it's trips to go somewhere, but they'll ask for luggage or they'll ask for a certain kind of food they haven't been able to have in a long time, and most of the wishes being fulfilled are, I mean, it's terminal.
Very, very,
most of them are. Now Houston is not. Houston, he's doing well, and there's a few, but Cliff's done a lot more. For whatever reason, we have a lot of up and down the river. We really do. There's a lot of cases through there, but we have one that we're going to fill in April, and I'm excited about that together.
Me too. It's ironic that you said that, because some of their wishes are not what you would think they would be.
Yeah.
I had this young man, I don't know what much time we got, but I had this young man in Stuttgart, Arkansas, and it was shortly after my brother had passed away. And you get you go on, we have access to what we call a wish grid, and it gives the child's first name, doesn't give their last name, and it gives where they're from, whether it be Atoka, Tennessee, Covington, Marmaduke, Arkansas, wherever it's from. Make-A-Wish, let me go geographically. Make-A-Wish Mid-South covers the whole state of Arkansas. West Tennessee, Nashville has their own, but Nashville back this way is all Make-A-Wish Mid-South, and all the way down to Grenada, North Mississippi. So that's our chapter. That's Make-A-Wish Mid-South's chapter. Well, there was this young man in Stuttgart, Arkansas, and I kept opening the wish grid. And every time I would look, it said Price H, Stuttgart, Arkansas. And I'm like, I'm not ready for this. I'm not emotionally ready. Mentally, I can't do this right now. So I'd close it up, and I'd go on down the road. I'd look at it again, open it up, 50 kids on there. First name I see. It's like none of the other kids, I saw their names. Price H, Stuttgart, Arkansas. I'm like, God, I ain't doing this. I know what you're trying to do, but I'm not going to do this, okay? This kid deserves better than me right now, okay? So the third time I did it, I opened it up, and there it was, Price H, Stuttgart, Arkansas. So I said, okay, God, you're going to have to make this way, because Stuttgart, from where we're from, is about 3 hours. Mm-hmm. And I thought, now, how am I going? You had to have a partner. So I thought, how am I going to get someone to go to Stuttgart with me and to give up their time? Because we all know the one stingiest thing we have is our time, So we go to Stuttgart. I finally get a wish partner. I said, you want to go to Stuttgart? How far is it? Well, I may have white lied just a little bit to get one. I said, it's a little over an hour. It ain't far. So we get in the car. We head to Stuttgart.
4 hours later.
About an hour into it. I thought you said it was on an hour away. Well, just a little bit longer. So anyway, we get down there, and I knock on the door, and I walk in, and there's this 14-year-old boy, and he lost his hair, and he doesn't, he has brain cancer. And we begin to talking and cutting up, and he just typical kid hunt fish, played football, baseball, basketball, everything. Just your typical 14-year-old boy. And his dad was an airline pilot for United Airlines, and his mom was a nurse at Baptist Hospital in Little Rock. And just your normal, typical family, And we began to talk to that young man. I never forget, his mom told me a story. The young man loved Peyton Manning. So I know you Tennessee guys, y'all going to love that. That was his favorite football player. And of course, I argued with him that Tom Brady was better, but I wasn't going to win that argument. But he was a huge Peyton Manning fan. And Peyton Manning had given him a signed football and had called him and reached out to him and stuff. He had Peyton Manning's personal number. Oh, and wow. So his mom's, I always tell a story on her because his mom was in Walmart one day. So she's trying to get groceries and all this stuff, and trying to work and run a kid back and forth to St. Jude with cancer. And he had a 16-year-old sister that reminds me of Amanda. She's barrel racing fool. I mean, just horse everything. And she's trying to attend to all of that, and trying to juggle everything. She gets a phone call while she's in Walmart. She don't recognize the number, so she hit the old shady button. So the number leaves a message, a voicemail. So she gets home and she listens to the voicemail, and it's Peyton Manning wanting to talk to Price. I tell her, I said, Miss Jana, you're the only person in the world I know that would shady Peyton Manning, an NFL quarterback. I mean, probably one of the best of all time. And we laughed about it. But Price was showing me all of his stuff, his trophies, his deers. He caught a big old bass and all this stuff. And he was just being, funny. But as my partner had went, Amanda knows you got to fill out the paper. You get to fill out paperwork with the kid, and that's fun. But then you got to ask the parent a bunch of questions and I try to always weasel out of that one if I can. And so I'm sitting there talking to Price, and we get to the part about we ask him. I'll go through all those series of questions, and I ask him what his one true wish was. And my partner over there, she's a planner, and I think she's already written want to meet Peyton Manning, And I get to the part where I ask him what his wish is. He looks at me in the eyes. He said, I want to go on a cruise with my family.
Oh, wow.
I said, what? He said, yeah, I want to go on a cruise with my family. I said, let me ask you this again, Price. I went through that series of questions. So I said, now, Price, what's your one true wish? You just told me all about Peyton Manning, how much you loved him and all this jazz. I said, what's your one true wish? He said, I want to go on a cruise with my family. I said, Price, why do you want to go on a cruise with your family? I said, you love Peyton Manning. I said, this is your wish, dude. I said, do what you want. He said, because ever since I've been sick, my family and I haven't gotten to go on a vacation together. Mm. This is coming from a 14-year-old boy. Mm. And I told y'all that adversity of COVID, back to those masks wasn't going to bother them, because these kids are old souls. They have built-in perspective because their whole life has been a fight, and they've been battling. So I began to talk to him as my friend was doing that other paperwork, and I was sharing with us, Price, how are you doing this? I said, he got real serious. I said, how are you getting through this, man? And I didn't think I was in no shape or form, because I just lost my brother. I mean, I was zoned out. My head was jacked up, from grief. And that young man looked me straight in the eyes. And, I've heard some profound speakers in my life. I mean, some supposed to be the best preachers and motivational speakers in the world, but no one ever spoke to me like that young man did and touched my life. He looked at me and he said, either way, I'll be okay. God's got this. Mm. And I was like, wow.
That's 14.
At 14 years old. Either way, I'll be okay. God's got this. Greatest message that has ever preached to me, because I needed it at that specific time. God puts the right people in the right place at the right time for his purpose and glory. That wish was meant for me. That wish wasn't for me to go there and help Price. That wish was for Price to help me. So people ask me, why do you make a wish? Well, it's not because I get the opportunity, Mandy and I get the opportunity to go change lives. It's because kids like Houston and Price Hancock are changing ours. Mm-hmm. And when we got to go, Price, it wasn't good. He ended up passing away. But I remember his dad calling me on December like the 24th or Christmas Eve or something. He said, will you please pray that Price has one more Christmas with us? I said, sure. I said, we've been praying. He said, just pray that, please. So the whole community, we prayed, and Price, on December the 26th, he called me and told me that Price was okay in the arms of Jesus.
Oh, wow.
And we went to the funeral, and you know how they have the slideshow and all that stuff. So I'm still thinking in my mind, man, if I'm this kid, I'm going to meet Peyton Manning. You know what I mean? I mean, that was my mentality. But we get to the funeral, and they show, pictures of his trip and all that stuff, and it hit me. I said, that's why. I mean, that's why. That was the last vacation that he ever got to go on with his family. And we often think about, everybody wants to know, how much does a wish cost? How much does it cost? And I told our CEO, Casey, I said, we hear that question a lot. I said, but it just depends on who's asking, because if you ask the Hancocks, it was priceless.
Oh yeah, it's no money amount.
Yeah, absolutely.
But in Cliff, right, he doesn't give merit to it, but you actually conduct one of the absolute largest fundraisers, really, in a tri-state area for Make-A-Wish. And I'd really like for you to elaborate on that because it's on April the 4th. But how many years have you been doing that now?
This will be our 13th annual we call it Make-A-Wish and Ag for Autism dinner and auction, because one of my best friends had a little autistic son, and he passed away. But so Ag for Autism is an organization in Jonesboro area, and it's just a group of people in the ag industry who have each and every one of them on the board have a child that's autistic, and there's not much funding if you look in your states and your schools for children with autism. I mean, so we what Ag for Autism does is give grants to those children and provide the schools with the resources that they need to help educate those children. But we decided my calling is Make-A-Wish, and is I wanted to do something to help him. So we decided to join these forces, and the ag community. We know that we stick together. You know, I mean, we help each other. We may be competitors or whatever, you know, but that for one night, we've got Helena there helping us. We've got Nutrien there helping us. We've got whoever, John Deere, Case, it don't matter. For one night only, the community comes together and we just bond together to help these children. And we will have this. We've started doing something about 5 or 6 years ago to where we get to, we started giving scholarships because as Amanda, as she spoke about, a lot of these children are survivors. Like leukemia, childhood leukemia is one that's highly curable now, but the treatment that they go through to get that, I mean, it's unbearable. But so for those children who have beat the odds and are starting their next level in their education, going to college, we started giving scholarships, and we call it the Power of a Wish Kid Scholarship. We will give 6 this year to 2 children from Walnut, Mississippi, around the Corinth and Tupelo area. I guess that's before Corinth, isn't it? And then we have some children in Searcy that we're going to give some. Then we have 2 children with autism, and that we're going to give scholarships for. So it's just been a blessing. I mean, it's a community event, and that's what I don't want to put no feathers in our hats, because it's not about us. It's about the kids, and it's about the community coming together as one. And it's not about look what we did. It's look what God's doing. You know, look what all you got to do is say yes, and God's going to do the rest. And that's what it's all about. I mean, we want to give back. I mean, and somebody asked me, one of the guys, new guys working for me, that I don't have any now, but I have some pocket knives every once in a while. Now, if I I love young men, you know, that's especially I had like Price's age, love to aggravate them. But I always give them a pocket knife, and it's a case pocket knife that says John 3:16 on it. And I'll tell them, if you got Jesus in a good pocket knife, there ain't nothing else a man can need in this world. Just keep your faith in Jesus, and as long as you got a good pocket knife, you can do anything. But one of the young men said, he said you're going to give everything you got away. I said, and I told him, I said, Hunter, I said if you're always giving, you're always going to have something to give.
Amen.
So if someone wanted to participate in your auction or just help your charity, how do they do that?
If they want to participate in the auction, they can come, and
it's in person live.
Yes, it's a live auction. I mean, we have a silent auction on the tables because for time, you know, we don't have time to live auction all the items. But it's a live auction. We need donation stuff to sell. I mean,
It can go from crafts to guns to purses to seed to, I mean, it's chemical. It's a vast array of things.
Absolutely.
Quilts.
Quilts. I love those.
What about a farming operation? Could we see what we could monetize one of them with creditors?
We don't like to invest in a lost cause.
Okay. So,
but when is it? It's on April the 4th.
It's on April the 4th. And man, if y'all have anything, I mean, you can put my number up here. Anything you'd like to donate, butts in the seat. We need those. We need people buying. But you think people ask what can I donate? Think of seasonal stuff. I mean, it's spring. It's pretty. Our farm products do well at that time. You know, like Amanda's hitting on the stuff, the baskets, those kind of things, home decor, anything like that, anything that we'll sell it as long as if it's something, we don't want you to clean out your closet and bring your old clothes, but we want something, something new. We want to sell it, and we would love for you to come, because I promise the blessing is not for the kids. The blessing is for you. If you come, I mean, you will receive a blessing. These kids will give their testimony, and you've never heard a testimony from anyone like you have from a kid who's battled cancer their whole life or something like that, and have beaten the odds. So, I mean,
Where's the location at?
It's at the Paragould Community Center, and I don't have that address. I'll put it out. But
And what time?
Doors open at 4. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and then we'll get your information.
Yeah.
If anybody needs anything else.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, Cliff, I appreciate you coming by. You had a lot of positive things, but you had a lot of serious things, and that's always to be expected when you're grown up.
Yeah.
Dadgum, we grew up, and now we got to do real stuff. So,
Yeah.
If you had one piece of advice for those that are listening right now, for the growers, whether it's them, their sons, their nephews, what would you say to them?
Don't give up. Promise is greater than the storm.
well, all right, let's end with that.
Thank you.
Thank you.